Well, again, thank you very much for your flexibility with me being basically a one-person show. Laura was joking how basically what I need is just like a kick drum or a tambourine to kick while I'm playing and singing. I'm like, if I had more time, I could get out of my office. But anyhow, all right. Who here, if they caught someone breaking into their car, would be okay with this? Raise your hand. Has anyone ever thought about that? And then if you ask them, what are you doing breaking into my car? And they said, God needs it. Don't worry. We'll give it back to you as soon as we're done. Who would believe that person?
Alan Sprague.
What now?
Alan Sprague.
Alan Sprague? Why is that?
There was a story about him meeting some person, and he gave him Judy's station wagon. He didn't even know them.
Did they get the station wagon back?
I think so.
Oh, wow. Oh, go Alan Sprague for loaning awkwardly his wife's car to a total stranger to take, and apparently they got it back, thanks be to God. Well, sometimes it does come true. And that's the interesting irony of this story. I've often thought, this is kind of strange that Jesus would say, just go into the city. Go grab a donkey. Total stranger's donkey, doesn't matter. We'll give it back. But, lo and behold, as they did, they're like, why are you untying that donkey? They're like, God, Jesus needs it. We'll bring it back. They're like, okay, go right ahead. Now, I imagine if it was less of a total stranger and more of someone like, say, the head of the FBI, or say, the President of the United States, or a monarch of England, we might be more inclined to trust them with our car than we would a total stranger on the streets. But immaterial, in this situation, it's setting up for Jesus' entry. Now, I love that funny anecdote. But here's where it gets really interesting. Can anyone tell me why Jesus was, what it signifies when a king rides in on a donkey?
He's humbling himself, right?
Sort of, humbling himself. But it actually means he's riding in peace, not in war conquest. So imagine this, walk with me for a minute. Over here, you've got Jesus coming in, riding on a donkey. On the other side of town, you've got Pontius Pilate. Now raise your hand if you've heard of this guy. He's the governor of Rome. Now, tell me again, were the Jewish people a docile, subservient, occupied people?
Nope.
No, they were one of the hardest people for Rome to subdue. Yes! So, Passover was happening. Now, what was the story of Passover again? It was liberation from?
The Romans.
No, well, in Exodus. It was liberation from Egypt. From what in Egypt? Slavery. Yes. Liberation from an oppressor who was keeping people captive. I can't imagine why that particular holiday would be problematic for Rome. Can you? Especially when the entirety of the Jewish people from all over the world come to Jerusalem once a year for this, to sacrifice to God. Okay, who here has ever been in a city during the Olympics? Whoever has been in San Francisco when Beta Breakers is going on trying to cross over Market? Were you very successful? No. Imagine the entire city overrun like that. You just basically don't go anywhere. Now, the Sicarii, who get their name from the word meaning daggers, were a terrorist group of Jewish insurrectionists who would go into the outer courts of the temple and stab people, just randomly, in the middle of the crowd, causing mayhem and chaos, especially when it was really crowded. So you can imagine that Passover is a time, kind of like St. Patrick's Day or New Year's Eve in a bar, where you've got all hands on deck to do security for you. Okay, so Pontius Pilate is riding in on the war horse of Rome, which is always what happens, because peace in Rome meant peace through power. And what kind of power?
Armed.
Violence, enslavement, occupying countries, taking their wealth, other much more nefarious activities. But that's the procession that comes into town. But basically what is happening is Pontius Pilate is riding in on the war horse to say, look, I'm here representing Caesar. Y'all better keep yourselves in check, or else I'm going to cause you great harm and pain. And all of his entourage is coming in with him. Okay, that sounds like the normal world. Tell me, most empires, is that the way they make their empires happen? Yes, of course. Well, here comes Jesus. Now, on top of a donkey being a symbol of not conquering but coming into the city in peace, imagine riding a young donkey. Have you ever seen a donkey when it's young? Have you ever tried to control a donkey when it's young? If you haven't, it's basically as effective as herding cats. I mean, imagine like bucking him, bouncing all around, jostling, looking like a crazy person. And Jesus is trying to ride into town on this donkey, he's just knocking him everywhere and making a commotion. But what's happening is the people are making a statement that is really, really powerful. And that statement is one that is said over and over again. Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Our King is coming. Our King has entered the city. He is coming to liberate us from those who would harm us, to bring us peace and dignity, to bring us justice, to bring us independence from outside sources that squelch the reality of our lives and our relationships with God and our nation. Wonderful sentiments, right? We've said that thousands of times. But hang on a minute. If Jesus is king, is that entirely a spiritual concept or a political concept? Both for us, yes. But in the eyes of Rome, that's a political statement. Basically, you've got another side of town claiming that a rival king has arrived. I promise you I'm going somewhere with all this. So you've got the war horse of Rome and the bucking donkey of peace of Jerusalem coming in at the same time. So what's neat about this is that the hope of the people who have been waiting for centuries, where developments of messianic hopes have gone all over the place and sometimes got really weird. But still, ultimately, the king of David, the heir of David's throne, promised that will come back, is here. How would you feel if you were in Jerusalem, hoping for the overthrow of Rome, knowing that your king has come to liberate you? How would you feel?
Excited.
Excited. Who would be nervous?
Oh, yeah.
Who would also be like, are we sure we really want to do this? Because if we don't win, and we're probably not going to win, it's going to be bad. Remember what happened to Rome about 50 years later. It got razed to the ground by Rome because of a successful messianic insurrection. Anyway. That being said, Jesus is not coming in with a war horse. He's not coming in with a sword. He's not coming in with any actual weapon, is he? He's riding an untamable steed, walking through branches and cloaks on the street. He's not here to fight. Well, what kind of king comes into a kingdom that's already occupied, declaring his entrance without any weaponry to fight the battle that is certainly going to ensue? It's not a very smart king. You've got to defeat this evil occupier. Well, hang on a minute. What kind of kingdom are you trying to set up, Jesus? What are you doing here? And Jesus is trying to say, hello, I'm trying to set up something that transcends even the politics of the realm. I'm trying to set up a way of being that transcends all of our assumptions of how the world should work. I'm trying to bring God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. You've heard me say several times the notion of being a member of the kingdom of heaven is sort of like dual citizenship. And what Jesus is trying to say here is that the kingdom that we are going to build together is going to be one that will not look like the kingdoms of the earth. It will look like a kingdom based on love, based on humility, based on peace, based on compassion. It's a king who makes his throne on a cross. He's a king who makes a throne on a cross. to quote the New Zealand Prayer Book. He's not interested in overthrowing people or cutting them down or killing them. He's saying, I don't care what it takes. I don't care what the cost. My choice to follow the leading of our God into the path of love and into a kingdom that has no end, that cannot be overthrown. And very humorously so. Because, once again, riding on a donkey like that's not an easy, normal way of doing things. We are celebrating today the fact that our hopes for fulfillment have come. We don't know yet. We have to pretend like we don't know about what's going to happen in the next few days. But to sit and revel in the fact that the one that we have chosen to follow is going to bring that realm, bring that world, bring that community where love stands supreme over and against all other odds and all other costs. It's a nice thing to herald that kind of leadership. The Lord knows we don't have enough of it in the world. But it requires going beyond ourselves, our assumptions, our local community, although it started in our local community. And through our lives, through our heralding, through our saying, prepare the way because God has come to bring God's love and light in the world, is what we are called to do. Because after all, it's not much of a procession if no one's there going along with the King. So as we make our way towards what will be the horrors of the rest of this week, knowing that it's not the end, but only part of the story, may we think about the ways in which we as a community can prepare the way of God, to herald, to shout loudly, our God saves us, our God is here with us, our God's kingdom is coming in the form of peace and love and acceptance. Let's herald that this week, shall we? Let's give thanks for that. Let's share that good news with the world around us. And then let's come for the rest of the Holy Week services, which will be kind of all over the place, but worth it. And see what God has in store for us each service to lead us deeper into walking with Jesus as he goes through this incredible experience. That we come out on the other side with resurrection, having a fuller sense of what it is that we are being given new life into. Let us herald the coming of our King. Let us herald the kingdom of love. Amen.